Hi, everyone. So this is the first Something Fun Network. And if you're watching this on recording, which I hope you are, I've not done a very good job of promoting this or sharing this. So going forwards, I would really, 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 really love help promoting it. And yes, it is down to me to do. I know, I know, I know. So that would be good. I'm just doing some last minute posting on Facebook, but this will be recorded. And I'm excited because, sorry, I was just turning the light on. Because of life's journey over the past year, I've been threatening to do this and I've showed up a couple of times and I haven't done it. So I am going to show up regardless. Only question is, do I want to do it at 11:30 or do I want to change the time? I'll see how we go. I used to be a morning person. I was like really excited, like we're going to do it 7 a.m. And then I got in my head and I was like, well, when will people show up? And the thing is, if people are going to come, they're going to come, right? You will find a way, just as I have found a way to create life such that I am now able to be here. I am very passionate about that. You know, you either do stuff or you don't do stuff. And I don't make excuses usually. It's more about, is there more upside? Is there more value for me to do something than pain? Is there more pleasure or pain? And to be completely fair, the idea of being here on my own, talking to myself, is not really resonating. But then I can't expect the world to drop everything at 11:30 for something I essentially don't know about, which is pretty hilarious. So, welcome to the Something Fun Network. This is like the first proper one that I've done. And the reason I say it's the first proper one I've done is because it's the first proper one I've done with clear headspace. And so I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. But what I will say is going forwards, this isn't about, standing up and dancing and, you know, positive affirmations. It's nothing about that. It's just we're in the middle of the week. I'm lucky to be in the position that I'm in. Is it great? Is it ideal? No. Is it a lot better than it could have been and has been? And if I put myself in the shoes of other people, it's actually really quite decent that I can stand here and do this and just talk. So we're not going to be going rah rah rah. We're not getting the pom poms out. Equally, we're not moaning, and we're not trying to fix each other. It's just about being who we are. And actually, I was a bit stressed out because I had a friend over to do a training course call. Then I had to have some breakfast. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be late for my total viewers of none to this call. But on a serious note, I kept a promise to myself, right? So I said I would be on at 11:30, despite how uncomfortable it is. And in fact, because of how uncomfortable it is, because if I think about it, it's not just about an audience. Like people do podcasts where they talk for an hour. And I've got to be honest, a podcast longer than 30, 45 minutes, I get bored. Apparently, the world says that long form content is what people want. If that's what you're wanting from me, I'm so sorry. It's probably not going to happen. So, anyway, that's me just sharing. It's about coming, it's about leaving and feeling lighter. And as we grow the audience, which we will grow, then, you know, it's about cheering each other up and hopefully there'll be less pressure on me. So, welcome. And if you're not here, thank you for watching on wherever I post it. So it's definitely going to be in Facebook. It might be on LinkedIn. And I just realized you might not even be able to hear me because I don't know which microphone I'm using. But no matter. It's progress over perfection. So, yeah, if you're watching this on recording, thanks and nice to have you. So I think I can probably stop waffling and I think we should probably start in earnest. So we are going to breathe and we're going to do box breathing. Why? Because I tend to do it twice a day, morning and evening. And I was watching actually a documentary about Chris Hemsworth and living longer. And apparently the emergency services use this, which I did not know. But if there's any other kind of breath that works for you, just do it, right? But what we're going to do for the purposes of this is we're going to breathe in through our nose to a count of 4, hold at the top to a count of 4, breathe out through our mouth to a count of 4, and hold to the bottom. So you see what I did there? It looks like a box. Not that your breath looks like anything, but you know what I mean. So, okay, I would invite you to shut your eyes and make yourself comfortable and just breathe into 4. So 2, 3, 4. Hold it there. 2, 3, 4. And big exhale through your mouth. 2, 3, 4. Hold it at the bottom. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in through your nose. 3, 4. Hold it there. 2, 3, 4. And out. 2, 3, 4. Once more. In. Hold it at the top. 2, 3, 4. Big sigh out. 2, 3. And then just sit. Let your breath return to its normal pattern. And maybe if you want to take a moment to think about what you're grateful for, I can give you some prompts. So I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful for all the technology, including Zoom, that allows me to do this without being physically with you. I'm grateful for my body that allowed me to weight train today. I'm grateful for the beautiful gym I get to go to. I'm grateful for the carpet that I'm standing on, the roof over my head being dry, even though the weather currently outside is absolutely freezing. So it doesn't matter how small or how big it is. You could even just be grateful for your breath, right? You could be grateful for the fact that you woke up in the morning. What we're doing here is we're taking a moment out of our hectic schedules and we're just breathing. And we're just being with ourselves because that's what this is all about. This is part of resetting. And so when you're ready, come back. So what are we going to talk about today? I think I just saw something in my notes thanks to ChatGPT. And the context is I was reading a book by Dane here. I think it's called Money Isn't the Problem, You Are. And, you know, he's a published author with his business partner, and he's got a podcast. And one of the things that, I mean, he says a lot, and I think we're very similar in that, you know, maybe there's ADD, maybe there's, I don't know what there is, but there's something. Okay. And one of the questions he encourages us to ask is what feels heavy and what feels light? And you can apply this to literally anything in your life, like a relationship, friends, relatives, even a decision you have to make. Like when I speak to people that I work with, I just ask, you know, what feels heavy, what feels light? And I think, and I don't want to give him sole credit because I've heard this from multiple sources, but, and this is definitely something I use with one of my clients in particular, is If it feels heavy, let it go. If it feels light, let it flow. Now, what does that mean? Because it sounds like a load of airy fairy crap, right? Well, essentially, I think in my life, I spent a lot of time in my head, and I probably still do spend a decent amount of time in my head, but less, a lot less than I ever used to be. I'm a lot more peaceful. Am I as peaceful as I want to be? No. It's a constant practice. And this is where I'm a real fan of progress over perfection, right? Like my mantra is pretty much better and better every day to anything, right? Being a better father, being a better coach, being a better at this, just showing up, just little tiny improvements. And so, what I'd love to hear from you in the comments is, what in your life feels heavy and what in your life feels light. And I'm not encouraging you to make any big decisions around this now, but just be tuned in. Just feel it. Just listen, you know? Because actually, most of the answers we need, most of the knowledge that we need, most of the intuition that we need is within us. It's just that there is a lot of noise in life, and there always has been. I'd love to say that it's social media, it's scrolling culture. Yeah, sure, that doesn't help. But, you know, this is stuff that I've experienced throughout my life before there was mobile phones, before there was social media. So I think I have to be fair, and it's not just that. That stuff doesn't help. And I'm also not about blaming things. I think another thing I learned when I was, following the Sadhguru stuff is I'm responsible for everything, for how I feel, for how I think, for how I show up in the world, and actually for how people respond to me, right? Because we're all connected. We're all just little balls of energy, right? And we do affect each other. Whether you smile or scowl at someone, that could affect them profoundly. Like we don't know, right? And so when you're tapping into stuff to ask yourself, how is this feeling? Just get used to it. Just practice it. Put in the comments how that feels. It's a really, for me, it was a really weird thing. And I was almost blown away. Well, I wasn't almost blown away. I am blown away by the simplicity of it. Because it's not like, oh, get up, do this, journal that. It's literally a question of how does this feel? Does it feel light or does it feel heavy? And then as you tap into that, you might find that you get an insight. I'd love for you to share what that insight is, or you might find that you want to take an action. It might be that you want to spend more time in an environment that makes you feel lighter, or you might want to spend less time in an environment that makes you feel heavy. Now, don't get me wrong, we can't always choose where we are or who we're with. I think the magic is not in the outcome. I think the magic is in the process and realizing and bringing conscious awareness to something that is at best like a subconscious, automatic, operational thought, usually. And I'm making some assumptions here. And so another thing I realized, and I didn't even know that I was doing this because, I struggled with self-esteem and setting boundaries with people because of the lack of self-esteem throughout my life. And what that meant was I spent a lot of time not being myself. And I couldn't because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was. Maybe there's an argument to say I still don't. I have a better idea than I have had through any point of my life today. And to me, that's magic. And I've had a lot of support on the way and, listened to a lot of people, read a lot of stuff, got thoroughly confused, kind of sat there collapsed in a heap because I'm like, okay, this person says this person says that. And that was a typical symptom of it, right? It's like, oh, I've got to listen to this person. I've got to listen. Well, yeah, it's good to get knowledge. It's good to listen to people like Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins and, Vishen Lakhiani and all of these very clever, insightful people. But ultimately, how you show up, what works for you, well, only you can know that, right? They're just catalysts, they're just filters. But the real work is here and here. Like if these aren't aligned, we're going to struggle. And I know because I struggled. And then you look for support and it tends to be quite negative or it anchors you in the past. And don't get me wrong, I think there is space for exploring what's happened in your past to bring you to this moment. I think we tend to possibly spend a bit too long in that space. And I think it can potentially, leave residual negative energy in us. And, I'm all about the consciousness. I'm all about trying to be an elevated state of consciousness, not just for me, but those people around me. Like I laugh loud, I talk loud, right? But that's just me. People might like me for it, people might not. I fundamentally don't care because one of the things I used to do a lot is be very, very judgy of things and of people. And I think there is a place for it, right? It's a survival mechanism. I think it plays a bigger role than it needs to because we are fundamentally as a species, fundamentally as people, at least I hope when you're watching this, you are safe. Safety is achieved in various ways. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be to do with housing, food on the table, bills to pay. But, at a very basic level, we are not being chased by lions and being eaten on a savannah, right? So, yeah, I forget where I was going with that, but it's quite important to me just to be myself, warts and all. And so, yeah, so the first question, oh, I've lost my notes, is where do you feel flat? Where do you feel heavy? Got another question, actually. Where are you wearing a mask? And that just talked to what I said. Where are you not being yourself? Because as well as better and better every day, one of the things I'm doing is I'm engineering my life so I can spend more time being myself. I had an autoimmune condition. I fixed it. And I'm not trying to, sing my praises, but, medicine says that they can't be fixed. I have like zero inflammation in my blood, which when you have an autoimmune disease, whether you're having symptoms or not, you will always have elevated inflammation markers. And I don't. And I'd love to say that's just diet and exercise, but I had to spend, the divorce was part of it, working with people to look at the shadow side of myself, which I'm actually scared of, but I now see it as a tool and I know how to manage it. But really looking at my subconscious and really getting the help and being around the people who can help us introspect. That's where my healing was. It wasn't a diet. It wasn't the fact that I started running. These are all the equivalent of sticking plasters, right? Like, yes, we have plasters and we have an unlimited supply of plasters. You can go to any pharmacist, keep buying plasters, but wouldn't it be better if you just stopped chopping yourself or cutting yourself? Wouldn't that be better? And look, that makes it that really massively simplifies it, right? And that makes it sound like we make conscious decisions around this stuff, but we don't. Like some of this stuff we do make conscious decisions about. Some of it comes from our upbringing. A lot of it is just in our cells. Like we're talking about generations of programming at a cellular level, right? So, the massive thing is just to bring consciousness. So if you're wearing a mask, ask yourself, well, are you? Where? How often? Why? How does it make you feel? Do you feel it in your stomach? Do you feel it in your head? Where do you feel it? And, if you're anything like me, you probably go, well, I don't know. Just get curious. Don't judge yourself. Just be like, am I wearing a mask? That's the big question. Then where am I wearing a mask? Then how does that make me feel? And then depending on the answer to those questions, is there another question that says, what do I want to do about it? Or how can I do something about it? What are the things that are available to me that I haven't thought of so that I spend less time wearing a mask? And look, we do have to pretend that, one of my favorite sayings is, well, you see things in black and white. There is a gray area. And yet when I talk about this, it feels to me like I'm being black and white, but it's not that straightforward. And sometimes you have to wear a mask, and sometimes actually wearing a mask served us. My experience is, yeah, when you're a manager or a director, or you own a company or you're networking, yeah, you have to wear a bit of a mask. But other times you don't, and that stuff sits in your body. And my personal experience is, I spent so long wearing a mask with people that were close to me, people that I thought were good for me in my life. And let's just be really clear, that doesn't make these people bad. It just means that they weren't good for me. Okay. And I really, really, really want to be clear on that. And so what happened is I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis sort of 13, 14 years ago. Actually, thanks to a close family member, she was diagnosed with it. And I was telling her about some symptoms, and she said, you should probably go see the doctor. And so it's a journey. It was a journey of exploration, curiosity, frustration, anger, resentment, love, paralysis by analysis, all of that to get to the point that I'm at. And do I have bad days? Yeah. But I am on no prescription medication. None. Don't need it, don't want it. And I'm not saying that if you're on medicine, drop it. But make a plan, have a vision for your life. The vision for my life was to be active, to be healthy for my young daughters. Because, our kids don't look at what we say. Sorry, our kids don't listen to what we say necessarily. They observe our behavior. And so if I'm in bed, laid up, popping pills, that's going to be normalized for them. And I personally don't want that. I'm like massively passionate about that. Right. So get curious. Where are you wearing a mask? And that probably dovetails nicely into the next question, which is, dun, 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 what are you avoiding? And actually, there's an argument to say that all three of these questions, where do you feel flat or heavy? Where are you wearing a mask? What are you avoiding? They're all probably the same root cause. Maybe they're different phases of something. I don't know, but what are you avoiding? What have I been avoiding? I've been avoiding doing this because it was weird. I have like this fear of doing it on my own, but then equally, I have this fear of if people actually show up and are expecting me to do stuff, But you know what? I said, I don't care. I'm going to show up anyway because it's a promise to myself. If I keep breaking promises to myself, how can I possibly keep a promise to anyone else for a commitment? I can't, right? So now I need to muck around with the timings to see if this works for me and you. So if you would prefer a different time, please, please, please let me know. So what are you avoiding? Why are you avoiding it? Could be big, could be small, could be making a phone call. And look, all these self-help gurus would be like, do it now. Get out of your comfort zone. Yeah, there is some truth to taking action. There's also some truth to maybe having a think and just a little bit of introspection before you do that. And being like, well, what am I avoiding? Why am I avoiding it? How does it feel? And then what can I do? You see, if you have action without exploration, it's kind of pointless to me, because I've done that so many times in my life, right? Like, just get curious. Don't judge. Just get curious and see what comes up. What are you avoiding? Now, ordinarily, if it wasn't just me, myself, and I, we would go into breakout rooms here. But seeing as it's a breakout room for one, and you would be staring at nothing whilst I went into a breakout room for one, it's largely pointless. So we'd normally spend 12 to 15 minutes. So by virtue of the fact that there is no one else here, this is going to be quite short. But feel free to pause this if you're watching it and spend some time based on what we've talked about so far, or what I've talked about so far, or what I've talked at you about. Yeah, see what comes up. If you want to write it down, write it down. If you want to think about it, have a think about it. If you want to put it in the comments, put it in the comments. I really don't mind, but just try and do something. Yeah. I can't be just sitting here twittering on while you're doing nothing. You got to do some work. And, feel free to share your insight in the comments. Excuse me. Feel free to share it with someone that you're close to, and say, oh, you know what? I just thought about this stuff. Where do I feel flat and heavy in my life? Where am I wearing a mask? What am I avoiding? And you know what? You could ask other people this that you're close to. Depending on who they are, they might think you're a bit of a nut job, but I don't care. I know I'm a nut job. It's all good. It served me quite well in life and it will continue to serve me, right? Because it's out of the box thinking. And so then I'm gonna wind this down now. I think it's about 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. I think you're probably fed up with me and I'm actually running out of energy just talking to myself. I'm supposed to be energizing and uplifted, and here I'm saying I'm running out of energy. Need to rethink that. But look, it's about being authentic. So my final question to you, and thank you for viewing this, or at least, if there's a clip of it, scrolling past it and just listening for a minute. What's one intention or one action you've got this week? Actually, let's change that. Because intention and action are both action, right? It's both doing something. What's something you gained from this? What's a thought that came up? If it's an action, great. If it's not an action, doesn't matter. But what's the thought that came up whilst you heard me on today's call? And so with that, I'd like to thank you very much for listening wherever this is and however you're getting it. And if you want to get in touch and discuss, feel free to put it in the comments or send me a message. I'm going to thank myself for turning up because it was a big thing for me. And I'm going to thank you for watching it if you are watching it. So thank you. Bye for now, and I love you all lots.